Guys, in this video, I will be focusing on the decision-making section of the UCAT and in particular, the drawing conclusion questions. I'll be going through some examples at the end. So let's start. So what makes a strong or a weak argument? So a strong argument would usually link directly to the question, whereas a weak argument would be irrelevant or it wouldn't directly link to the question. I will be going through some examples which will make it become more clear. And also a strong argument would cover all parts of the question, whereas the weak argument would cover some or no parts at all from the question. And a strong argument would be usually objective and factual. For example, it would be certain to conclude a statement. It would have words like is or will, whereas a weak argument would be subjective and it would make assumptions such as more likely. And also a strong argument would give relevant explanation, whereas a weak argument would be irrelevant. It would not have a valid explanation and it would include personal opinions. So a key tip from me is, if you read all the statements, compare them at the end. It would allow you to see which would be the best statement at the end. So that's a key tip. Disregard your personal opinion. It is so important that you don't let your views influence your judgment, because in actual, the right answer may be something you disagree with, but based on your opinion, you might end up choosing something that you agree with, which is wrong. So make sure that you disregard your personal opinion. Okay, so moving on to the first example, it states, should a tax on sugar purchases in the UK be imposed in order to reduce the rates of obesity? So from this, what you should take as the keywords is tax sugar purchases in the UK to reduce the rates of obesity. So if I read the options, it says, yes, obesity is a rapidly increasing problem that puts the health of population at risk. Yes, excess dietary sugar has been correlated with increased rates of obesity. A tax on sugar purchases would reduce the amount of dietary sugar consumed by the population. No, sugar is a necessary ingredient in many products. Taxing such a widely used ingredient would drastically reduce sales and damage the economy. No, people should not be financially pressured into adapting their diet and should be able to control their weight independently. So have a go at this question, pause, and I will go through it in a minute. So the right answer is the second option. Well, this is because it links directly to the question. As you can see, it includes rates of obesity and a tax on sugar purchases, which includes basically everything from this statement. And it has a relevant explanation as well. It gives a valid reason, because it says a tax would reduce the amount of dietary consumed by the population as it's correlated with increased rates of obesity. Whereas if you look at the other examples, for example, the first one, for instance, it says it doesn't directly talk about tax on the sugar purchases and doesn't aim to solve the problem. So in the first option, tax isn't mentioned anywhere, so it's not mentioned, it's not directly mentioning what's in the question. That's why it can't be the right answer. Third example, well, it's not right because it doesn't aim to solve the problem and it doesn't link to the question again, because it doesn't have anywhere rates of obesity. So it should have all the main pieces of information, because even though this has tax in there, it does not have rates of obesity, so no. And finally, the last one, it doesn't link to the question because it's assuming that weight is obesity, and it might not be obesity. Even if you know something is, you disregard that, because in the UCAT, you basically just, everything you read is what you take in, and if you can't be assuming something, because this assumes that weight is obesity, and therefore it's not the right answer. Moving on to the next example, It states, should patients have access to surgeons' mortality rates? The first option states, yes, as surgeons with lower mortality rates are better. Second one states, yes, as patients need to know who will be operating on them. Third one states, yes and no, as surgeons have said they will avoid high-risk cases to improve their numbers. And the last one says no, as administrative errors might greatly impact on some surgeons' careers. The keywords from this example, it would be patients and surgeons' mortality rates. But if I look at the options, I would soon realize that none of them fit perfectly with the keywords. So that's why you need to be able to compare each option at the end and work out which would be the best option from all of them. Because not in every scenario you would be given a perfect explanation and argument. So you need to be able to compare each one and work out which would be the best one. So in this case, the third one is the best one. This is because it gives an evidence. It says, as surgeons have said. Have said means there's no assumptions and this is an evidence. So that's why, and it also gives a valid explanation to improve their numbers. That's why this is the best option. Whereas if you look at the first one, it makes an assumption because it says, as surgeons with lower mortality rates are better. Well, we can't say that because a surgeon may have good mortality rates, but he might not be good. He might not have had any difficult operations. So that it makes an assumption. So that's why you can rule this one out. Now the second one, as patients would already know. So it says, as patients need to know who will be operating on them. So if someone's operating on you, you would know who the doctor is. So you do not need to know who they are because you would already know. So you can rule this one out as well. And finally, the last one, it doesn't directly link into the question. It brings in administrative errors. It just goes on to tangents. So surgeon's career, we don't care about that. That's irrelevant. So if you compare all the options, the third one would be the best one. It's not the perfect one, but it's the best one. That's why that would be the correct option. Now, moving on to the last option, should prisoners be allowed to vote? First option, yes, people who have been convicted of crimes are still affected by the government's decisions. Yes, prisoners are still people and so should have equal voting rights to others. Third, no, prisoners should be allowed to vote. And last one, no, prisoners are more likely to make the wrong decisions. So if we were to pick the keywords from this statement, it would be prisoners and vote. So which is the correct option from all of these? Well, it would be the second option. Well, this is because it directly links to the question. It includes prisoners and voting rights, and it makes a valid argument. That's why it's the right option. Prisoners are still people and so should have equal voting rights to others. So that makes a valid argument and therefore is the right answer. But we can't look at the second option and just say that's the right one. We would have to look at each example. So for example, the first one, it includes an assumption because it says people who have been convicted of crimes. Well, in the question it mentions prisoners. It doesn't mention people who've been convicted of crimes. We can't say that people who've been convicted of crimes are prisoners because people may be convicted of crimes and may still not be prisoners. So that's why it makes an assumption and we can rule this one out. The third one, no, prisoners should not be allowed to vote. Well, there's no argument, there's no explanation, so this can't be the right answer. And finally, no, prisoners are more likely to make wrong decisions. That's an opinion, and opinions are always or mostly wrong. So you can rule this one out as well. You can compare all of these, and the second option would make the most sense, would be the most valid. This would make the correct answer. I hope this video has been useful. Thank you.